Hi folks, it's Mark here. I thought I'd make a very quick, very simple video to show you how to sprout your own bean sprouts. You know, the kind of bean sprouts that you get in your Chinese food, or you know, bean sprouts that you can put in your sandwiches and use to cook with. Bean sprouts are very, very nutritious, and they're incredibly, just ridiculously easy to make. I've seen quite a lot of videos on YouTube of people using all kinds of methods to sprout bean sprouts, and people seem to be determined to make it quite a complicated process. And I've seen a lot of people who have bought fairly expensive kind of sprouting equipment and stuff, but you don't need anything expensive, and you can pretty much use things that you've already got in the house. Right, so this is the simplest and easiest way to sprout bean sprouts. What you're going to need is a plastic container. A plastic container of any description. This is just an old ice cream container. Obviously I've cleaned it thoroughly, and if I move the bean sprouts out of the way, the mung beans out of the way rather, you can see that I've made holes in the bottom of the container, and I've just punched those holes through the bottom of the container using a clean Phillips head screwdriver. More holes, so that's what you need. A plastic container. This is an old ice cream container. You could use an old margarine container, any kind of plastic container. Just put some holes in the bottom. You'll also need some tin foil, a jug of clean fresh water, and of course mung beans. This is 1 kilogram of mung beans that I get from an online store called buywholefoodsonline.co.uk. They're incredibly cheap. You can buy them in most supermarkets, health food stores, or anywhere online. I buy mine from Whole Foods Online because I buy a lot of stuff from there, and when you buy stuff you get points, and my points add up to the point where I can buy 2 or 3 kilograms of mung beans and it won't actually cost me anything because I use my points. Okay, so what you need to do is take your plastic container with the holes, and you need to measure out your mung beans. So pour your mung beans into the container, and what you want to do is you want to spread them out so that they're preferably, I mean this is not absolutely important, but preferably so they're not on top of one another, so they've got a bit of space. As you can see, the container, the bottom of the container, so you've got some spaces there. Yeah, so you want to spread them out nicely. You have to remember that when you add them to the water, they're going to expand, so you want plenty of space between the beans. Then all you've got to do is simply pour your mung beans into your water. There you go. And what you want to do is you want to have a lot more water in the jug to cover the beans, because you're going to leave these beans to soak either overnight or for a minimum of 12 hours, and the beans will absorb a lot of that water, and you want more water in the jug so that they don't absorb everything and end up drying out. Okay, so you leave your mung beans in the water overnight or for 12 hours, and then once you've done that, I'm not actually going to do that now because this is just a video to show you what to do. Once you've let your mung beans soak, then you just want to pour your beans into your plastic container. Just give them a tap to get them all out. Now obviously I'm doing this on my draining board. You can do it on your draining board, or if not, make sure that you've got another container underneath, because you don't want the water going everywhere. So there's your beans. Now obviously I haven't let them soak, as I said, because I'm just showing you the process. But when you have let those beans soak in that water for 12 hours, they will be larger and they will already have split open. So that's that's the mung beans pretty much ready after soaking for 12 hours. And then all you need to do is simply put your baking foil, tin foil, baking foil, whatever you call it, or whatever it's called in your part of the world. I think in the States they call it aluminum foil, which is quite funny. We call it aluminium, the Americans call it aluminum. So that's what you want to do. You want to cover it with your foil, and then that's pretty much it, apart from the fact that what you need to do to actually grow the sprouts is twice a day you just need to take your container, take your container and just fill it up with water, basically. You know, just put plenty of water in there so that the beans are covered. Obviously, again, you want to make sure you're doing this over the sink or on a draining board. So you've watered the mung beans. You want to do that twice a day. I just water them once in the morning, once in the evening. As soon as you've watered them, then you want to put your baking foil back on top, because the baking foil helps the sprouting process because it keeps the beans dark. And to sprout the beans, that's what you need. They need moisture from the water, that's why you water them twice a day, and then they need complete darkness. So that's what you do. Very simple. And if you just follow that process of watering the beans once in the morning, once in the evening, it doesn't have to be in the morning and evening, just twice a day, but you know, doing them first thing in the morning and then early evening means that you're watering them out fairly evenly spaced. So yeah, water them twice a day, cover them in baking foil, and that's pretty much it. It's very, very simple. And what will happen is, if you water them twice a day and you keep them covered in baking foil, after 5 or 6 days, possibly a week depending on temperature, you will end up with a plastic container full of beautiful, fresh, highly nutritious, crunchy bean sprouts. And you know, I can guarantee to you these taste absolutely incredible. And there you go. That's an indication of how many bean sprouts you get. This is I think this container was just a container that had some fruit in it or something from the supermarket. Obviously, you can't really see. Obviously, there's holes in the bottom of the container. Put the beans in, watered them twice a day, covered them with the tin foil, and if you do that every day, after 5 or 6 days, that's what you end up with. These are fantastic. I use these on my Chinese cooking. I include them in my chicken chow mein. I include them in my chicken and broccoli. You can even just, you know, put them in a sandwich and make a bean sprout sandwich, and that is beautiful. Because you're not cooking the bean sprouts, you're not applying any heat. If you put them in a sandwich, it's just a beautiful, fresh, crunchy sandwich. So yeah, there's your bean sprouts. Some people cut the tops off. I don't know if you can see that. No, you can't see that very well. Let's just hold that against the dark. That's it. That's better. Some people cut these little top bits off, and some people cut the stringy roots. I personally don't bother, because if you apply these to heat, that tiny little, can you see that? That tiny little springy piece of root is just going to kind of shrivel up anyway. And it won't do you any harm. I mean, you know, even though, can you see those leaves beginning to form? Even though they've got leaves, when you apply, if you cook them or you eat them, there's nothing in these bean sprouts that are going to do you any harm. One thing that I should just mention, these are ready now, so I will actually be cooking with these today. The one thing you really should do is, before you cook with them, tip these into a colander or a sieve and just run some fresh cold water through them, just to wash them, just to clean them. You know, they have been sitting in a container in water for a few days. Now they should be perfectly safe, but just, you know, I just like to wash them before I cook with them, because, you know, whenever I use fresh vegetables or fresh fruits or fresh herbs to cook with, I just, you know, it's just my personal preference just to give them a wash. So there you go, that's how easy it is to sprout mung beans. All you need is a plastic container with holes in the bottom, some mung beans, some tin foil, and a jug of water. So that's it, that's how simple it is. And I'll just go through it all once again. You measure the mung beans out into your container like this, so that there are some gaps. You pour your mung beans into your jug of water, making sure that there's plenty of jug in the water for the beans to absorb. Leave the beans in the water for, I'd say, a minimum of 12 hours, or just do it overnight, that'll be fine. Pour your mung beans back into the container like this. Water your beans by just running a tap over them for a few seconds twice a day. I do mine in the morning and the evening. Cover them with the foil, keep them dark. It's not a very good idea to keep them in a cupboard. Some people do put them in cupboards because it's dark, but they do need some ventilation, otherwise you can get some mould. So cover them with your baking foil. You know, keep them in a dark place, water them twice a day, and after a few days you'll have a container full of beautiful, beautiful, highly nutritious bean sprouts. And just to show you another thing that I've done, I use a lot of bean sprouts. I do a lot of cooking and I love Chinese food, so I tend to produce my bean sprouts on a larger scale. This is a tea towel, so you don't need to use baking foil, tin foil. You can just use a tea towel, and as you can see, if I just move this, actually, you just move this out of the sink. As you can see, I've got a plastic container. This is just a cheap plastic container. I actually got several of these from eBay. I think they're about £1.25 each. But you can find them on, you know, in any kind of cheap, cheapy shop or hardware store. In Britain, we have shops called Poundland and the 99p store, and you can find these baskets in there. Once again, can I show you? Yeah, I can. I've just put some holes in the bottom, and there are my bean sprouts. These are, let me just pull one out to see. Yeah, they're pretty much ready. I might give these another day just for them to get a bit longer, but that's bean sprouts on a larger scale. But the process is exactly the same. Just water them twice a day, keep them covered with something so that the beans are in the dark. With this method, I've just used a tea towel, and you will have beautiful, nutritious bean sprouts. Okay, folks, thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments, or you have anything to add to the methods that I use, you know, if you do things differently with your bean sprouts, please let me know. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.